All right, it says we are live. We'll give it a few moments. Okay.
Hello.
There we are, guys. How's it going tonight?
Hello, Gun Nation.
Yay.
That's
Very
very
good.
spirited. I like that.
That's the excitement. Bringing that excitement with me.
It's pretty good. Well, we'll give everybody a moment to roll on in. In the meantime, gentlemen, how are the two of you?
I am living the dream. What about you?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm tired. It was a long day at work today, but I'm ready to talk guns for sure.
Sorry, I'm just texting my boss really quick. She asked me a question. I'm doing great. Overworked, underpaid, underappreciated. Great. I do want to announce something. I'm trying to somehow convince Caracol to send me a gun. So I want everybody on Instagram to hit them hard, saying send 1776 or bust a handgun from them. Even though I'm already on the list to buy one, I just want to see if I can get one. So if anybody wants to help out, I'd greatly appreciate that.
As well try it.
Make sure it's the one with the sights halfway up the slide.
I don't even care if it comes with no sights. I just really, really want that gun. I don't know why, but I just do. Hopefully it's not a turd.
Oh, right on, right on. Real quickly, Brian, the G45 is treating me very well. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But guys, again, thank you very much for hanging out with us tonight. Happy Wednesday as always. So we've got a couple of topics here that might carry us through a portion of the chat. Thought it might be of interest to all of you. But then we'll probably open it up and just kind of have a sort of a free for all and see what kind of questions you guys have. As always, if you guys will put the @ and our name in front of it so it can kind of draw our attention to your questions, that is always very helpful. Hopefully we'll get to everything. If we don't get to your question, ask it again. We'll try and cover it as best we can or save it for the next time. You guys always have amazing questions. So to kind of kick things off a little bit, we've been talking over the past few weeks about a couple of late new guns to the market for 2018. A lot of them get introduced in SHOT Show and even the NRA show, and that's kind of the windfall of guns for the year. I know we're all getting pretty excited for January of this coming year. However, throughout the year, manufacturers still periodically spit out a gun or two. Of course, we've been talking about the Glock 45 a little bit. That's caught some attention, as well as some other Glocks. But there have been a couple of other guns that have come to the market. We spent a little bit of time talking about the Archon B, and we've started to see some videos from Honest Outlaw and Mac and Codaboy 32 and various experiences with those guys. So it'll be interesting to see some updates and see how that does. I'm sort of rooting for that gun. I think it's a very fascinating firearm. But then we've also talked a little bit about what's the other one? The Alien, right?
Yeah, Alien.
Yeah, and there was a video out the other day, very short, like 3-minute video, and we got to see it shoot just a tiny bit and take it apart. That's actually a pretty fantastic looking firearm, I have to say. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, 17.
It's a fantastic looking firearm. I can't wait to see what its price is going to be. That's going to be the clincher right there, because that's not going to be a $500 gun. That's going to be a plus $1,000 gun.
Yeah. I think it's going to be an awesome gun. I mean, watching the guy shoot it, shoots really flat. You can actually take the top rail off, and you can get the MOS rail. You can get a Picatinny rail. You can get different sights, but it's all built on the rails. And I think that's a genius idea. Kind of weird how it comes apart too. I thought that was very different. And the blowback is kind of strange, but and it is a aluminum and polymer gun. So it's kind of a two-piece, little reminiscent of the Sphinx, and I'm sure it's stainless steel slide, or pieces of it might be. But the fixed barrel is, I don't know, it kind of reminds me like the 22 compact or something like that, the M&P. So I don't know, but yeah, I was kind of asked around, and people were saying it's going to be like, $2,500, $3,500. There's prices all over the board. So, and I heard it's going to be limited run of like 500. I don't even know if that's true. So we'll have to see.
I'm out.
Yeah. And you look at it this way, what potentially could it do that, another great firearm that you may already have, or that's in circulation already? And I'm sure the price will come down as it's, more introduced, but they're going to rip somebody's head off right off the bat, I'm sure. But you know, how much better is that gun going to be versus another gun? You know, because we've all said that it's, you know, it's pretty much the Indian too.
Right, right. You know, and they've been talking a little bit about this this alien to some of the prices. And Shook's Customs was originally saying 1,200 to 1,500, and that's not without reason if it's a good gun, because it's unique, it's usual, all those types of things. I would almost be on board with something like that, because that's the price of a decent 1911. We're talking like a TSO, that sort of thing. And again, if it's unique and reliable, you know, maybe. But if we're talking, and Harry was suggesting, you know, 3,400 to 4,500, that's in a whole different league of firearm right there. And when you're talking that kind of money, when you can go out and you could get a Les Bear or an Ed Brown, or you know, Checkmates, or you know, some of these other guns that are tried and true classic firearms, what do you guys think? I don't know about that.
Well, just to kind of, you know, bring up 1.2 about the gun, you know, some people were saying there's going to be a limited run of 550 units or so. I mean, is that even going to hurt the gun? Because you have a limited number. What happens if something breaks, or if you need a replacement? Are they going to make sure that they have enough in their stocks and warehouses to kind of have those pieces that you're going to need? Because that's got to be so unique of a handgun that, you know, it's not like you break something in your Glock and you go out and you get a couple of springs, you're good to go. So that to me is a bit iffy, you know. I mean, it's like anything else. You pay that price, you're taking a gamble. You know, I don't know. I mean, if it's a $1,200 gun, I guess people will buy it. But you know what's going to happen? They're going to release those, and even though the MSRP will say like $1,500, they're not going to be $1,500 guns, because you know what's going to happen? Somebody will buy a lot of them, and then they're going to wind up selling them off for crazy amounts of money. Because people will definitely want to have them, because it's a limited edition handgun.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with that.
So, oh, sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say something else?
Oh, I was going to say, I totally agree with 17. And then, you know, also as far as, you know, if you really look at the design of when they pull the gun apart and do everything, that would be a gun that I would want to see in the wild and see it perform, see multiple videos on it, you know, maybe put my hands on it before I jumped into something like that. You know, I'm not saying it's not going to be tried and true. It's definitely a different setup when you look at it. So.
Right. But even with that limited number, you may not have that chance to do that, because
exactly.
Cooped up.
Exactly.
Well,
but I mean, you know, if somebody gets a hold of it, you know, and shoots it in multiple competitions or something other than just the 3-minute snippet that we saw, you know, I would want to see the thing a lot more before I jumped off into something like that. And if it's the price, you know, like 2,500, 3,500, I'm out. I would just save the money and buy a Nemesis, or, you know, a Kai or something like that.
That's the other thing. You have to wonder a little bit about support and parts. You know, if something's going to break or whatever, when you've got a limited run of a firearm, whether it's 500 or 1,000 or even a couple of thousand firearms, the ability to support that, because it's not mass produced, I would think would be greatly reduced. And the ability to get it serviced quickly. You know, they might have to manufacture parts or so. I mean, you know, you're getting into, again, a whole different league, and it is certainly quite a gamble.
Exactly.
Going along with this, along with new releases, there's been another new release to the market that's been a little bit more quiet. And I'm not necessarily sure why, because it's a pretty large manufacturer, and I know some of you guys will probably scoff at this, and I understand exactly why. I respect that. But Springfield Armory, they came out with their XDM, which is not new, but it's the OSP, which is an optics-ready firearm, which again, for Springfield isn't necessarily new, but it's got the suppressor sights. But a twist that they've done to this is they've got the threaded barrel and a non-threaded barrel both in the case. And I thought that was a little bit interesting. We haven't seen many manufacturers, if any, really, there have probably been a few, that have come out and released a firearm that have given you multiple choices in terms of barrels right out of the box, rather than having to go and purchase another one after the fact. And I thought that was kind of cool. What do you guys think of that? Giving a little bit more of a choice to the consumer when they buy the firearm.
Go ahead, 17.
You know, it's hard to say what the intentions are of that too. You know, I don't know if they're moving a lot of units, and you know, any kind of enticement to the consumer to add it. Like right now, they're doing the 3-mag giveaway again, which is always a really good deal in my opinion, because it comes with 2 magazines. You buy the gun, now they send 3 more, you know, and that's not bad to have 5 mags that you don't necessarily have to pay for those extra 3. The barrel thing I think is cool. It's a nice idea. I don't know if it's going to sell the units, and I think that's where the intention is. And later on, I'm sure we're going to segue into something called marketing. And I think some manufacturers have their marketing down pat, and others don't. And I don't know where this one's going to go. I mean, I like the XD Mod 2 series. I like the way the gun feels in the hand, and they shoot really well. They're very reliable handguns. I know there was a channel that did a chat on that idea of whether or not, Springfield should be forgiven or not. And I can't tell you guys what to think or believe, but, I think they make good quality handguns, or at least in Croatia they do. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that gun. Me personally, I don't really see a necessity for it, especially because it's a little bit heavier, a little bit bigger than, let's say, the Glock 19 Gen 5 MOS. So I don't know. That's my answer.
Yeah, as far as that particular pistol, it is nice they're giving options. However, like in a non-free state, for one, you couldn't get the threaded barrel.
Right.
Or are they just going to pull it out of the package and keep it? I mean, how the hell is that going to work? And then for another thing, for me, Springfield really doesn't do anything. And I know they had their FUPA, and, even aside from that, probably the only Springfield I would own or have would be their 1911s. I think they're very nice. But they just, to me, that's just kind of I don't really need a polymer gun with 15 safeties on it. And I'm being sarcastic, but it's just not my game there.
Totally understood, and yeah, rightly so. And I've been reading some of the comments as well, and I totally get some of that. Although, and I'm with some of the guys out there, their 1911s are fantastic. I'm a big fan of those, I will admit. But aside from that, it isn't so much necessarily Springfield doing it. I like the idea of manufacturers that are putting out firearms, like even maybe the FN 509 Tactical, something like that, which you guys know I have, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. If you're going to carry that, your holster options have to be a little bit different, because right now it just has the threaded barrel, unless you go back and buy the OEM barrel or something like that. And so to get everything in a package in the box, ready to go, and have some of those choices, it can add to the flexibility of the firearm a little bit, I think. So I thought that was kind of a cool idea in concept itself, especially if you like to run cans but don't necessarily do it all the time, and you don't want to have all sorts of different guns. You want to kind of have one gun, one platform, but be able to have it be versatile and change your barrels out, put the optic on when you want, that sort of thing. I like that, and I think we're going to start to see more of that down the road. I think we're going to see more flexibility in the firearms. We know optics are becoming more popular. Yeah. We're seeing more threaded barrels out there. But again, in terms of carry, how practical is that? We're not going to be running around with cans, most of us probably. So having some of that interchangeability, and again, right when you buy the firearm, even if, Rabbi, like you were saying, you're paying a little bit more for that up front. I get that, but to have that flexibility, I think that's kind of cool. So I'll be curious to see what other manufacturers potentially do in response to that.
Yeah, but and I know that depending on what the price of that Springfield is, we don't know yet. But you could buy an MOS Glock, or you could buy something to that effect, and then just purchase a threaded barrel, and you've kind of got the same thing, and do with it what you want. But I don't know. I mean, anything that is an option, that could be coming out is good, because what that does is have other manufacturers look at maybe, somebody they're competing against, or an idea that maybe they didn't think about, or something. So any of that is a good thing.
Right. So interesting stuff on that front for sure. And we've had a couple of questions and a couple of comments, that sort of thing coming here. So I'm trying to kind of mark those down as we go along, so I can capture those. But I've got a couple of other topics here I wanted to kind of knock out real quick. And one of them, this is a topic that's come up a little bit of late, at least for me. I'm getting ready to do a project with Brownells, more on that at a later time. But that, and a video that Honest Outlaw put out talking about the Q4, it actually was the Q5, it was the PPQ Q5 from Walther, and some of the different modifications that he's done. And he made some very good points in that video. And it got me thinking a little bit about that. So to my question to you guys, both my esteemed colleagues on the panel, but everybody else out there as well, it goes along with making modifications to your guns. A couple of questions: do you mod your guns? And if so, what do you do to them and why? So guys, what do you think?
Go ahead, 17.
Yes. Yes, I modify guns because that's the point. It's my gun, and what I want to do with it is my prerogative. And I think that's important. You know, some people will refuse to change triggers out, which is understandable. You know, a lot of people worry about lawsuits and that sort of thing. But, you know, modifications can be as small and insignificant as a change of sights all the way up to triggers, you know, frames, slides, you know, slide cuts, you name it. And, you know, I feel like if I'm working hard and I'm paying my money to buy something, then it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. It only matters what I think. And for me, yeah, I like modification. I think it really revolves around who you are. You know, if you like a nice, solid, crisp take up, then great. If you want something a little bit shorter and a really nice, solid reset, get a trigger to do it. You know, whatever it is that you want, go for it. I mean, it's really up to you. So yeah, I definitely always will modify guns. You know, sometimes it could be just, like I said, as simple as sights, but it also depends on what's out there in the market, you know. But yeah, I don't have any problem modifying anything.
Yeah. And, you know, I've been in videos, you know, of course, where I've changed triggers and I've changed sights and I've done this or, you know, whatever I've done to it. You know, people are like, oh my God, you're going to, you know, go to jail and you're going to do this. I look at it this way, and I've said this on many other chats and even in the comments that I give back to people. I'm like, I don't care if I meant to shoot you or if I had to shoot you with a 12-pound hammer or excuse me, a 12-pound trigger or a 1-pound trigger. You know, if I mean to do it, it's going to happen. But so I'm not worried about that. And then also, you know, I've had people say, you know, on like competition guns, and hell, you know, if you really wanted to bring it all out, you know, what if I carried the TSO, you know, 1.5-pound trigger, or, you know, 1.8 or pound and 8 ounces. You know, I mean, I could carry that, and that came from the factory that way. You know, I've had 1911s that had a 1.5-pound trigger, 2-pound triggers from the factory, you know, they were custom. But, you know, is that illegal to carry? I mean, there's no, you know, there's not even a dog in that fight. You know, I modify my guns for the way that I like them because, for one, I look at it this way. If you have a trigger where you're having to pull it back so hard that you're shaking your hand, how the hell are you going to get off a good shot with that? You could hit an innocent bystander behind the bad guy. Anything can happen. If you've got a nice crisp trigger and you have to make the shot, that's going to help you make the shot. So if you have great sights, that's going to help you make a better shot. So I just say, you know, 31 flavors, do what you want to do, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And that's the way I look at it.
Very interesting, and I agree with both of you. And I'm going to add on top of that. And Keenan made a really good point. Keenan Gilliam said a firearm has to work reasonably well first before he does any mods, and I think that's a great point. I mean, I think it's important to start with a stable platform. You know, find a firearm that you like to begin with out of the box, whether it's a Glock or an MP or a 509 or a CZ, you know, getting Cajunized or whatever it happens to be. Find that platform that you really like. And if you want to make some modifications, I 100% agree with you guys. For me, it isn't modding for the sake of modding. I mean, yeah, sometimes we review parts and we review different components and that sort of thing. So we're putting them on the guns. There have been times where I've taken them back off when I'm done with the review. And not to say that the products are bad or anything. I have some different tastes that I might, for the longevity purposes, want to go with. But I think any opportunity you have to dial in a firearm to your tastes, like you were saying, Big J, you know, it might be shortening a trigger up a little bit, whether it's the take up or the reset, anything like that. You know, lowering the poundage a little bit if that's important to you, getting some better sights, putting on a different barrel if you want to run you know, lead bullets or something like that, especially in a Glock, any of those types of things, so you can make it suit your needs and also perhaps give you an edge, even if it's just going to the range and shooting. I mean, part of the reason that I think a lot of us shoot is just for fun, right? And if we can enhance our fun a little bit, make ourselves feel a little bit better. I mean, of course, fundamentals are important, but if you can just tweak it a little bit to be that much more accurate and just be a little bit more fun, and perhaps even have something that you're showing off to your buddies. I mean, we do that from time to time, right? I think that's really important to do. And I've been watching some of the comments out here, and hopefully you guys have as well. But different people have different perspectives on all this kind of stuff. I mean, different opinions on triggers, and then of course some add-ons, things like, and Stephen Worth was saying, weapon lights and red dot sights and some of those types of things. And I think some people feel like the sky's the limit, but I've certainly read, and I know you guys have too, comments where somebody said, why did you do that to your gun? Anytime we have a trigger video or grips or whatever it is, somebody is bound to come out and say, why did you ruin a perfectly good gun? I would never do that. That's a waste of money. Or you've made a $500 gun an $800 gun, or whatever it is. I mean, I've been beat up pretty good for the Shield versus P365 video. They said that's an unfair comparison, even though in the video I state multiple times I'm really comparing the original gun to the P365. I just have this particular one in front of me right now, but people don't necessarily always get that. But they were saying you took this $420 gun or whatever it is, and you've made it a $600 gun because of the trigger and the sights. It's not a fair comparison. And I think, well, why is it not a fair comparison? I mean, you might have a part here, you might have a part there, but it's all about the shooting experience, right?
Yeah.
But I also think it depends on guns. I mean, when you drop a new trigger in a Glock, it's almost an expectation. It's almost that people will say, oh, you put a trigger in, no big deal. It's a Glock. Most triggers get replaced on Glocks. The M&P 2.0, 1.0, it doesn't matter. 90% of the people would probably say, yeah, it needs an Apex job on it. But then the one video that I got hit hard on in regards to triggers was the PPQ. Because a lot of people were saying that is the best trigger outside the box. Why would you do that to the handgun? Look, I flat out will tell you the PPQ has a great trigger, but that Apex trigger made it even better because it's more controllable. And that's precisely what you want. You want a more controllable pull, and you want a more controllable reset. And when you put that Apex trigger in that PPQ, that reset is by far the best reset I've ever felt on any gun, with maybe the exception of the 2.0s because it's more adjustable in regards to poundage. But the PPQ, you can't go wrong if you put that Apex in. It's just that much better.
Yeah, and I will definitely second that also. With the PPQ, I had the Apex in mind, and and people, hell, I let people shoot it that own PPQs, and they were like, holy crap, yeah, I can tell the difference. And it was with the first couple of shots. And yes, PPQ has a great trigger, but that even makes it better. So if you feel comfortable in doing it, and my whole answer to all of this is, why should you do any of that? It's America. Do what the hell you want to do. I mean, period. No, you're not my judge and jury. You're not my boss. And, if you've got the funds and you've got the ways to do it and you want to do it, do it.
Right.
I don't judge you for what you carry,
I carry a high point 40.
Yeah. But, and if you think about it this way, look at competitors and competitive shooting, even long range shootings. Those guys don't use 12-pound triggers, guys and ladies. They just don't use 12-pound triggers. They use lighter triggers because they can get better shots, better breaks, better, impacts. I mean, that's what it's about. And I look at it this way. If there were a group of bad guys or whatever, and I had to defend myself, I would like something like that. Now, granted, if you have a negligent discharge and you're playing with the trigger, I mean, you put your finger on the bang switch, it's going to go off. Doesn't matter what kind of trigger you have. So just don't put your finger on it. Carry it in the correct holster, wear the correct belt. Don't do backflips like the FBI guy and your gun comes flying out and then you grab the trigger, And also, and y'all have probably had this too, as far as Apex, everybody's like, oh, if you drop it, it'll go off. No. I mean, man, if you've ever watched Apex testing, they actually don't do the normal shoulder drop. They actually do closet height drops. And I actually have pictures, which will blow your mind. I sent them to you guys about the Shadow 2 that they tested. They're working on a hammer for it. They took a brand new Shadow 2 and have been dropping it on the freaking pavement. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, the thing is just chewed up, and they've been doing the correct testing for it. So anybody that's going to go through that kind of testing, and I'm all for that. And I've had some triggers, and I've seen some people shoot crazy adjustable triggers that have no drop safe. And those things are stupid, and they usually break.
Right. Well, it's all very interesting, and hearing some of the different things you guys are saying, and also, again, reading some of the different comments and different perspectives on those things. And now, of course, talking more about triggers and some of the different feelings and thoughts about which firearms have great triggers. I've seen the Legion mentioned a couple of times in there, of course, PPQ, P10C. It all depends on the person. I mean, I know people who really like stock Glocks, or FNs, and some of those are a little bit harder, more duty oriented triggers, right? Kind of 6.5 pound heavier pulls or whatever, and so everybody's kind of got their thing, which is fascinating. I'll add one more thing to that. In 17, this kind of echoes off of what you were saying in terms of just adding a little bit more to the quality of your shot and the follow through. I was watching a Grand Thumb video. I think it was last night. He was talking about Glock stock triggers, and he was saying, they're not very good triggers out of the box, and making a few modifications to those is something that he's in favor of, because it's every little piece of action, or every little bit of action you have when you're firing your firearm, right? When you're going through that trigger pull and you're squeezing your finger and all that, you've got all these different muscles that are going on, and you have to fight with moving the gun from side to side and all those things. So if you can lighten that, or just make it a better trigger pull for you, you're going to eliminate some of that movement, some of that room for error while you're shooting. And I think that again goes to just dialing it into your preferences, whatever it happens to be. So I think it's a very fascinating concept, and I love hearing how different people go about modding their firearms if they choose to do so.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we beat that one pretty good. So the next topic here, and this is kind of off the beaten path just a little bit, but when you guys go to the range, when you guys take your firearms, whether it's outside, inside, doesn't matter, wherever you go to just go and enjoy shooting, do you take one firearm? Do you take multiple firearms? And why do you choose to do one over the other? Are there advantages to you one way or the other? How do you choose to go to the range with the amount of firearms you have?
Well, we kind of talked about this a little bit in the chat before, but it was kind of like, what do you carry to the range? The pack mule, where you're carrying a bunch of stuff. I've gone to the range with, more than a handful of guns and just shot and shot and shot, and then I leave the range and I'm like, what did I just do? I just wasted a bunch of ammo, because I took striker fire guns, double action, single action guns, maybe took a 22. I mean, I was all over the place. And was I dialing it in with a couple of guns? Yes. But, now if I go to the range, I'm trying to focus on, if I'm going to be shooting a competition, then I'll take the competition gun and try to focus on that. If I'm just going for defensive practices, I could very well just take striker fires. Striker fires one time, double action, single action the next time, just so you're a little more consistent. Or I'll start with the striker fire and maybe finish with the double action, or start with the double action, single action, then finish with the striker fire, because striker fire is always going to be a constant pull. Double action, single action is a little different if people haven't shot them. First pull is double action, then single action after that, unless you decock it or drop the hammer. So you're testing yourself, and I like testing myself. I don't, it just depends on the day and I guess what I'm trying to focus on. So, but I think before, yes, I did a lot of overkill with just all kinds of freaking guns.
I think kind of harping on what you're saying, I think the best thing you can do is go with a purpose, have an agenda of what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. There will be days where I'll take hammer fired guns only, just because that's what I want to work on. I want to work on that skill. I want to get, just get a little bit better, more accurate on the first pull, that double action. And then there's some days I take both striker and hammer, or just striker. Recently I went to the range and I took a bunch of stuff. I took, this beauty right here, which is that EMP4, that, whatever they call it, contour, I don't know, triple C. This gun is just, I'm not 1911 guys, I'm just not into 1911s, but this one, I was very impressed, man. This thing shot extremely well. So that day I took this, and then I took the Rock Island Armory because I knew I was shooting hammers. So I said, screw it, I'll take both. This is safety only. I knew it was going to be a single action, safety only, single action. So it's around the same kind of, if you want to call it a genre or whatever. But then I also shot a couple of striker fired afterwards. And, it all depends on what you want to accomplish. I wouldn't go with just one gun, just because, if I had time to go every day, then it would be just one gun. but I don't. So I have to, try to get in as many things as I can within reason. Sometimes I'm there for an hour, sometimes 2 hours, but it's worth it, especially if you're trying to work some kinks out of your shooting, and again, it's good to have several guns, in my opinion, because let's say you bring a certain gun with you and then you just absolutely suck, and then you're just defeated. I would just say, put the gun away, grab another gun and see if you can improve your shooting that way, but again, each to your own.
Yeah. What do you think, KS?
I'm getting to a point where I used to take 3 or 4 or 5 guns, and prior to having a channel, I mean, it was just to go and to shoot and have a good time. But as I, got into videoing and that sort of thing, it became a little bit more complicated to make some even just minor adjustments between one firearm and the other firearm, and inevitably one would almost always outshoot the other one, whatever it happened to be that day. Even if the range day before that, I shot the bad one really well. So I found that there were a lot of inconsistencies there, and it was getting me into some bad habits, and I wasn't able to really kind of hone in on what I was doing, especially if I was, getting ready to review a firearm. I wanted to make sure I spent some quality time with it, put plenty of rounds downrange. And I mean, before I do a review, I do a minimum of 300 rounds through a gun. I mean, 250 absolute rock bottom, but really 300 rounds is minimum, and it's better to if I try and get 500 if I can. But and so nowadays it's almost always one firearm. It's one, so I can pay attention to that one, unless there is a purpose. I mean, I went to the range not long ago and was testing some Fort Scott ammunition, and so I took 4 different firearms. But that's the first time I've done that in a long time. I mean, I really like to just get to know and spend the time with the one firearm and then not deviate from that. So so I don't know if that will always continue to be the case, but I'm finding that to be a little bit more quality time at the range, at least for me. And that just, I'm finding that to be a little bit more useful. So and thankfully, and I'm not like Jesse, I can't walk out my back door and shoot. I wish I could. But I'm maybe 12, 15 minutes away from my range. So so it's not too far away. It's not painful. I could always later on in the day go back and shoot another firearm if I wanted to, but I generally don't do that. So
now I have a question for y'all. Boom brought it up, Boom Outdoors, and it was a great question. He made the comment, he starts out every range session with his carry gun. Maybe he carried it to the range, and so he'll put some down range with that. And I carry, all the time, pretty much 24/7 if possible, unless I'm sleeping or taking a shower. But do y'all always take your carry gun and shoot it? And I have a little comment on what I'll say, but y'all go ahead. Do you always take the gun that you're carrying on your person and shoot it at that exact time?
Go ahead, Case.
I would certainly be carrying a firearm. Do I shoot that carry gun every time? Absolutely not. I definitely shoot my carry guns. I try at least once a month. If I can, just put a couple of rounds through. I mean, for the carry guns, like for me right now, really, it's the Shield, the Taurus G2C. Believe it or not, I'm still carrying that. It's still been a great gun, and then the M&P 2.0C, which is kind of a carrying, kind of a home defense gun. I've put a lot of rounds through those guns now since I've had all 3, and continue to do so. So there's a certain level of comfort there, but just maybe 100 rounds, something like that, just to again kind of remind myself this is the best hold, this is how it feels, this all that. I mean, I feel pretty good about that, and I probably should do more, but that's about what I can manage.
Okay. What about you, 17?
I will not shoot my carry gun if I'm at the range with it. However, what I try to do is I try to plan ahead. So I know this may sound crazy and maybe just a little bit OCD, but I always know what I'm going to be carrying next. So I will always make it a point to take that gun on a range trip before I go and carry it, whether it's for 2 weeks or a month, just because I want to make sure everything's still functioning, everything's good to go, no problems. But that's what I do. But I won't shoot my carry gun on me if I'm at the range, because I've already hopefully worked out those kinks, a couple of weeks prior to that.
Okay. Well, what I do is I, of course, carry it to the range, and I will have it in the appendix holster, and I'm, shooting something else. But I would say probably about 80% of the time, I'll remove the holster, with the gun in it, set it on the counter, pull the gun out, and I'll bam, 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 I might shoot a mag through it. Okay. But what was funny is you know, some people, they were just watching me. I didn't know they were watching me. And I pulled my rig out and set it up there and, you know, bang, 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 bang. But of course it's in my gun bag. You know, I've got the ammo. I carry HST. So I've got boxes of it in there, and I reloaded the mag and chambered around, put it back in the holster, put it back in the carry rig in my appendix, loading everything up, picking everything up. I was walking out the door. 2 people asked me, "You just shot that gun and you're going to carry it now?" And I was like, "Excuse me?" You know, I'm like, "Hell yeah." You know, I'm like, "Good Lord. Yes, of course I'm going to." I mean, it functioned perfectly. There was, you know, if it would have been an issue, I would have been like, "Oh crap, hang on. We got to readjust this." No issue, no concerns, shot great. And they were just blown away that I put it back in the holster and put it in there and walked out with the gun on me like a carry gun. They were just like, "I can't believe that's a dirty gun." You know, and I was like, yeah, it worked perfectly. But it just really, you know, it only happened one time, but it was 2 people at the exact same time. And I was just like, wow, that was weird. Never even knew they were watching me. And which one of them was actually one of the range officers. So that's why it kind of, you know, caught me off guard. He was a younger guy, but it kind of caught me off guard a little bit.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, we've definitely had some questions out there, and I don't want us to not
No.
any of the questions. And of course, guys, if you asked some early questions, if we missed any of those, be sure to come around to them. But I tried to jot a few down as we were going along. There was a question early on in the chat. I'm sorry I didn't catch who was asking this. I can't remember. Maybe it might have been, I don't know if it was Pistol Pete or somebody. I can't remember. But it was thoughts on the M&P 2.0. In this case, the 3.6 compact, so the smallest of the regular size guns, I guess, and asking if we felt like it was a Glock 26 killer, or in using that word loosely, of course. What do you guys think about that? The comparison between the two, which would you prefer?
Go ahead.
I personally don't see the point of the 3.6, and I do love the M&P series. I just think with the compact that they made, it just hit everything on the right note. Because really the 3.6 compact, or whatever you want to call it, is this grip with a shorter slide. So it's not even a fair comparison between that and the 26, because the 26, we all know, is a tiny little bitty grip. You know, I personally think that this is the best gun that Smith has made in a long time. It's perfect in size, perfect carry, perfect weight, shoots amazingly well. Although I would like to say it's me that's shooting it amazingly well, but at the same time, this is a great gun. I don't know why they necessarily released that 3.6 unless they were going to make a real subcompact to compete with that 26, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. I wouldn't buy one, but I love the M&P 2.0 compact. Fantastic gun.
Well, if you really think about it, they actually made that gun way back when, and here it is right here.
Yep.
It's the M&P 9C. Great gun, you know, 3.6 slide. It's got the Glock 26. You know, everybody thinks that this is the Glock 19, but it's not. However, this thing is a freaking tack driver, and I've got hell, I went live with it one time, and I was 10 yards and just hammering it. But I don't carry it like this. I actually have the X grip, and I carry it like that, so it gives me the full size grip. And I mean, this little thing is an awesome gun. Now, is there a big difference between 3.6 and 4? No. Carry it in a 4-inch holster, you know, one that's for a 4.0 and a little bit of distance, it's perfect. This gun is a phenomenal gun, but should they have came out with it? I don't really think so. I think that, you know, a lot of people in their brain are like, oh, it's a little bit smaller, so it's going to be easier to conceal. However, like if you know, carry it the 4 o'clock, whatever, that's not going to make any difference. You know, it's all about this. But, you know, this doesn't matter. Hell, you know, I carry Glock 34 with a comp. I carry the P09 with a comp appendix. And so that doesn't matter. It's all about this. And if you have the correct holster, you know, to pull this in and keep it in your body. So, but if it were me, I would go with the 4.0, or excuse me, the 4-inch, or really for me, I would go with, what's the other one, 4.25, and then have the full size grip. That's the one that would work for me. But with this gun, I have no reason to even get the 2.0. It's got the Apex, it's got great sights on it. It's set up just like I like it, and it shoots phenomenal. So no reason for me.
Yeah, Yeah, and I would also say no. I don't think it was a Glock 26 killer, because to me they're in two different spectrums. Even though their slides might be relatively close in length, even though I think the 26 is still a little bit shorter. I think. You correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys are exactly right. It's the grip and then the round count as well. I mean, a Glock 26 natively carries 10 rounds plus one, right? Unless you put in an extended magazine in there. Whereas the M&P, the 3.6, is still a 15 round firearm. It is still much closer in my mind to a Glock 19, even though a little bit shorter than that. So I'm kind of with you, Big Johnson. Ideally, if I think I would have liked to have seen, I'll put it this way, I would have liked to have seen more of a 9C style 2.0 that could have been a 3.6 inch barrel, but maybe 13 rounds, 12, 13 rounds, something like that, a little bit shorter grip, with an extended magazine along with it, so you could get the 15 or even 17 rounds or something like that. But that way you get that shorter grip. For a lot of people, for carry, for printing and all of that, they want that shorter grip. And that's why I think the Glock 26, although it's not as popular it was whatever 15, 18 years ago, whenever it came out. I mean, it's been a while. It's still a pretty popular gun. I mean, they've got the Gen 5 now, and I know at least down the street at Centerfire, I mean, they sell quite a few of those. So they're still buying them, and I think they're buying them because they are very small little guns. They're chunky, but they're small guns. So I mean, the 3.6 M&P I think is cool. I've got the 4-inch and it's fine by me. I have not had any inspiration to get the 3.6 because it's just 4/10 of an inch shorter, and that's the only difference between the two. I would have liked to have seen a smaller grip on that one.
So
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I've talked to Harry about this too, and he's had, a lot of demand for the 3.6 doing holsters. And I'm like, why don't the people just get the 4-inch? They don't realize it's not going to cause any issue, but I guess people are so concerned that they have to have the 3.6 holster. That part I don't get, because a little more length, especially if you're going to carry appendix or whatever, it doesn't matter about the length that's in the pants. It's about the grip. So, and actually a longer holster, if you're going to carry appendix, actually even works better than a small little holster, because it kind of digs into you in weird spots. But, I don't know. It's just, I kind of think I wish they would have called the 3.6 like the 9C 2.0, like what you were saying, KS. If they were just going to make that, I think they should have gone that route.
But I also think that this whole discussion about printing and carrying a smaller gun so you don't print, I do not agree with that at all, because I showed that video the other day. I was carrying a P09. There's absolutely no way anybody would have seen me printing at all.
Hang on. Now, you did have a baggy shirt on, things like that.
Right, but I made that very clear that you have to.
I know, but hang on though. There are people that have to tuck their shirt in. They have to wear a tie. They have to wear, like total dress attire, and they have to dress around. Like, think about it. If you would have had your shirt tucked in, and you had a tie on, and you had a belt on and dress pants on, you don't think that thing would have shown?
No, I don't. I really don't. I think because if you're going to wear a shirt, I mean, am I going to be wearing like a painted on shirt? No, I'm going to be wearing a shirt that fits me.
You could have ballooned it out. You could have pulled it. But sure. I'm just, if you want to, like I go to meetings and stuff, and I've got to be, on point. I can't have my shirt pulled out. It just looks tacky. Right. So, there's situations where, a smaller gun, yeah, would it be better? Yeah. Well, and sometimes I'll carry a smaller gun on my person with the shirt tucked in, with the tie on and all that. But in my briefcase, I got a big boy, and I don't advertise that. But, it's just, how you say you have to dress around the gun. If at your workplace you have to have a certain dress attire and you have to look a certain way, then you very well might need a smaller gun. I'm just saying. Sure. And I know a person personally that has to do that. As a matter of fact, in his building, there's no guns allowed, period. He had to sign a thing that says no guns, and he still carries one.
That's not talking about me, by the way.
No, it's not talking about you.
Not talking about me.
Not talking about you. But I'm just saying, in those kind of instances, you really might have to dress to where you have no gun, if you're looking at it that way. But yes, I agree. If you're wearing your shirt out, yeah, man, totally. You can totally get away with that.
Yeah, and I look at it kind of the same way as well. And for me, especially in the summer, I wear a t-shirt and shorts.
Yeah.
And although my t-shirts are not grabbing me, they're not vintage tees or anything. I'd look like a psychopath. But they're maybe a tiny bit baggy. I threw on my Glock 19 the other day, and I threw it on in the 3 o'clock position because generally speaking, that's where I prefer to carry a gun. I've been trying the appendix thing; it's not worked very well, by the way. But especially at the 3 o'clock, that grip absolutely matters. It matters 110%. And so for me, it's a lot better to go with whether it's the Taurus or the Shield or something like that, because there's just so much less there. It's less noticeable, and it might be more me than other people. Other people might not be noticing even if I had a larger firearm. So it might be a mental thing more than anything else. But I take a little bit more comfort in not seeing something when I look in the mirror, because I look in the mirror to make sure I don't look just ridiculous, or it doesn't just really scream that I'm carrying a firearm or something like that. And I definitely take notice. So I totally agree. I mean, if you're wearing like a button-down untucked shirt or something like, I mean, you can get away with a lot more. I choose not to dress like that. It's not as comfortable here, especially in 100, 105 degree weather. I want as light a clothing as I can possibly get away with, but also still be able to carry. So it matters to me for sure.
Go ahead, 17.
Oh, I'm and nothing else to say. I'm done. I mean, I guess it's based on belief. I believe in literally dressing around my gun.
Yeah.
And it gets hot as hell up here too, very humid. I don't care. I feel a lot better carrying a gun that has a full grip on it, where it's easy for me to access if I've got to pull that gun out and not fumble around trying to get my man hands on this handgun, and it's too damn small. If I have to pull that gun, I want a clean grip and a clean draw, and I want a clean shot. So I will always dress around that gun.
Now,
always.
I know your area is different than my area. We don't worry about printing. If I'm wearing like t-shirts and a shirt, a t-shirt and shorts,
sure,
I'll carry a monster gun, and I don't give a shit if it shows or not. I don't care. Right. I'm just saying there's those certain business situations or whatever. But yes, I mean, you can dress around your gun, but then again, you can dress discreetly even around a smaller gun if you have to. That's why I think it's that person's choice. If they want to carry a bigger gun and then get the holster, or I mean, joking around about it, but that urban carry where you can dress like or carry like a Navy SEAL where you got it halfway down your damn pants, something like that. I mean, if that's the way you want to carry it. I just think to say you shouldn't carry, or you've always got to wear a baggy shirt. Some people can't do it with their profession. That's what I was meaning.
That's fine. But then again, there's a lot of places where you can't carry the gun. And I know Channel Cat Chaser's been saying, is it worth losing your job over? I mean, for me personally, I cannot carry at my location where I work. And I'm not going to risk it because it would mean federal prison. And I don't want to go to jail. No offense, guys. I just don't. Yeah. If you do, great. God bless you. I don't. But when I'm not at work, I'm always carrying a handgun. And then somebody asked me about the gym. The gym is another pain in the ass because, you're wearing gym shorts and a t-shirt. So a lot of times I'll have a bag and I'll have it locked in my bag because I have yet to figure out a way to carry. And I don't want to have a cavity search done. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And I mean, I can understand all those things. When I go in businesses where I am carrying and they have the no carry sign, and I'm just like, whatever. And they won't see it, with particularly what I'm wearing, or if I've got it in my briefcase or something like that, they won't know. But, I'm not so worried about that kind of stuff. But, I guess to each their own. That's a decision that person would have to make and be okay with it. That's why it's 31 flavors, whatever.
Yeah, and that's what it boils down to. It's whatever you want. Do whatever you want. No one, in my opinion, nobody should say to you, that's stupid, don't do it. If it works for you, that's what you do. I dress a certain way. I mean, I'm not going to be winning any fashion shows. And honestly, I don't give a shit. I'm going to dress the way I feel comfortable and carrying a gun. And, yoga pants don't work. So unfortunately for, Baldy, who wears them a lot, I can't get I can't get my button.
They have those new yoga pants that have the little cell phone pocket in the side of the leg. You could just jam a gun right there. Nobody would know it.
Yeah. They look like jeans too now, I guess.
Yeah. But Yeah. So what do
So
we got
hey,
next? KS?
KS, can I bring something up really quick or?
Sure, man.
So, recently I let out a couple of words of anger towards Steyr online, and if you saw what I wrote, they sent me an email and they were advertising holsters for their M9 L9 series handguns, and they're $90, $90 for a gun that 90% of the people in this country don't have. And so I decided to write something on Instagram and say, why don't you work on your marketing? Why don't you work on trying to publicize that gun and show people how good that damn handgun is, and then market holsters that are ridiculously overpriced? So that kind of got me, I don't know, man, it just pissed me off because they have a great handgun that most people don't know about. And then they have the audacity to advertise a $90 holster for it. And it brought me up to this question of, what are some companies out there that make these guns, these firearms, and they're good guns, but their marketing is terrible, like absolutely just horrible, horrendous. Whoever's working there should be slapped or fired because they suck at it. And on my list, number one is Steyr. Their marketing is terrible because for them to do something like that, but yet never market that handgun so people can actually put their hands on it and understand how good those guns are, to me, is ridiculous. It's almost comical.
Well, and their rifles too, not just their pistols.
Yeah, and they're advertising the carbon fiber rifle, the carbon or whatever they call it now. I mean, really, like, wow, big deal. It's a bolt action.
Yeah.
But I was really just so aggravated by them because, you have a good handgun. It's a solid handgun. It could use a couple of tweaks here and there, but for God's sakes, advertise it instead of those holsters. So I'd love to hear what companies you think are dropping the ball.
Go ahead, or KS, if you'd like.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And that kind of goes to a larger point. And I was going to say that for next time or one of you guys or whatever. But yeah, I'm marketing for any of these companies. When we find a firearm that nobody's really heard of or they don't know much about or whatever, it's surprising to me that they're not trying to get the word out a little bit more. And Steyr's a great example of that. I mean, I know that we're all fans of that. There are a lot of fans in the crowd out there who are also big on Steyr's, of course, Mateo and some of those guys out there. And yeah, I don't understand it either, except that, this is a foreign a gun manufacturer that's pretty steep to military and law enforcement, that sort of thing overseas. And so perhaps like some other manufacturers, even FN, the consumer market, and maybe whether it be in America or wherever, is just kind of an afterthought. So they don't really put a whole lot of time and effort into it. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing personally for the consumer market, but it could be that way. I mean, FN is notorious for that. They're not after the civilian population at all. That is definitely an afterthought. I had a guy at Centerfire say the other day, that's their oil change money.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to put it. That's absolutely true. So they're not trying to really push the 509, and when they do, sometimes you'll see them on sale for $350 with 17 magazines along with it or whatever, because they don't care, Yeah.
Well, and the ones that I would say, honestly, would be, and FN was my choice also. I was going to say FN and Steyr. Those are two that are just, but that's, I know that FN's not, that we're crumbs to them. I think I've said that before too. And Steyr just, I don't know what the hell they're doing. They got their head in their ass. But the other one would be, God dang it, I just had it on the tip of my tongue. Crap, I'll think about it in a minute. Beretta. Beretta only advertises in the local gun stores when they actually have, like, buy a APX and get a holster and 3 mags or a holster and 5 mags. You only see that in a gun store, periodically with the little paper tear off thing. Mm-hmm. But as far as trying to push their gun or trying to recommend their gun, now if you go to NRA or you go to some of those shows, you'll see that. But they don't really have anything. I mean, but they have military contracts too. So, but then again, think about Glock. They have huge military and law enforcement pricing, and they have blue label pricing, but everybody still knows a Glock, and you see all the pictures and on Instagram and stuff of Glock, but they do a great job of marketing. But Beretta just does nothing. FN does nothing, and Steyr really does nothing.
Right. And, it's funny because you can see it too, because only Glock could make one baby poo brown gun, and then just like within a year release the same exact gun with a few small changes, and everybody loves it.
Yeah,
only Glock can get away with that. I don't think there's any other manufacturer that can get away with that except for Glock.
Yeah,
and it's no fault of theirs, man, because they're selling them. They're
Yeah.
selling them like hotcakes. So
yeah, I mean, there's people that have their there's companies that have their forte in marketing, and there's some that just suck. So,
yep. So Steyr, hire me.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, you're already doing free marketing for them.
I know. I think I sold more guns for them last year than they did for themselves.
Yeah,
probably true. Well,
hopefully I can do that for Caracol.
Right. So gentlemen, it's getting long in the tooth for our chat here, and I know there's another chat coming up here in a moment. So, gentlemen, any last thoughts or words?
Well, I just want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. Great chat. Great to have the, all the people in the chat room, and great channels there. Please subscribe to each other. It's always fun to hang out with you two yahoos. We look forward to this every Wednesday night, and got some reviews on the Lancer 308 coming up, some other gear that I've gotten, and stuff that I've been testing for, gosh, maybe 3 months. And if you follow us on Instagram, you've seen it. But I don't just get something in the mail and go, oh, look here, it's awesome. I mean, I actually test it and use it and see if I like it. So, and then have thoughts on it. So that's kind of what I have coming up. What about you guys?
I got to do a couple of videos. I shot the Rock Island Armory, the MAP series, which, is a very surprising handgun in many ways. I'll leave it at that. And then I shot the EMP, which, I mean, for a non-1911 guy, man, that gun is pretty damn sweet. I can only imagine what a $2,000 1911 must be like, because those are pretty heavy duty in regards to price wise. But so I've got that. I don't really know if I got anything else coming in. Oh, I got a stock for a rifle, but I haven't done anything with it yet. So I'll just show you really quick. It's kind of, some people may say it's cheesy. I don't really care. I can't wait to put it on. I'm not going to tell you what it's for, but I look forward to kind of turning this one rifle that people will turn away from into just one badass, mid-range rifle shooter. We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But other than that, I appreciate being on the chat. Appreciate everybody who stops by and gives up their time on a Wednesday. Again, if you guys don't mind, and I'm absolutely 100% serious about this, please go to Instagram and just harass the hell out of Caracol. Say you should send 1776 Robust a handgun so he can review it for you, because he's been talking about that gun longer than probably everybody else has. And that would be great. Now, is that really going to, turn into anything? No, probably get sued by Caracol for harassment. But, any bit helps, man. Listen, I just want to get my hands on that gun. So we'll see how it plays out. But other than that, it's been fun.
and there's your PSA for the night.
Yeah.
But guys, thank you very much, of course, as always, for joining us. Some fun things on the way. Even though I did that Glock 45 video, and it's generated some excitement, the 45, not that video, but I had more comments about the Gen 5 MOS than I did about the 45. So I need to get working on that here pretty soon. It's not going to come out this weekend. I have an If I Could Only Have One scheduled for this weekend. It is the last for a gun that will no longer be in the collection, so I'll be saying goodbye to that. Shook's Custom is no longer here, so I'm going to save my P10 news for another day. But again, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. As always, be sure to join us on Instagram, all that kind of good stuff. And we will see you guys next week.
Thanks, everyone. Be on my channel next week.
Cool.
Y'all have a good night.
You too.
Later.
Carry on.